Hello, everyone. I'm Austin, and today I'm going to be talking about the Creature Commandos comics. So I remember, I think it was a year ago when we got James Gunn's slate for the new DCU. One of the first projects he mentioned in this was the Creature Commandos, and I like immediately bought the comics when it was announced because I was pretty interested in them. And it's funny. So I think I read the first three, yeah, the first three issues, and I went, this is this is fun, kind of pulpy comics. And then I think kind of moved on to something else, not because I didn't like it, but more so um, like I was enjoying it, but I think I just kind of went, oh, here's something else I want to read, so I'm going to read that instead. And we were coming up to the show. Actually, when I'm recording this, I think we're about an hour away from the show dropping. And so for the last 2 weeks, I was like, okay, I should really go back and finish that. But it's been so long, I figured I'll just start over. And I really wish that I stuck along with it because I feel like if I had read to issue four is like the big moment where like I think this book becomes something really special. And we'll kind of get into it a bit later because I do think there's a bit of a drop off point. But anyways, so this book was originally created by J.M. DeMatteis, as you can see up here, and then later on we have whoops, didn't mean to do that Kindle thing. God damn it, Amazon. Anyways, then Robert Kanigher takes over. And I think there's another issue by Mike Barr mixed in, maybe two issues. So that's kind of more of what the book looks like as opposed to this new cover, or new, but you have the old shitty Peel DC logo. Um, Anyways, so I guess I'll give like a quick breakdown of who the characters are, especially for people who kind of know what the show is or see this video after they see the show, because these characters are, of course, very different from who he uses in the show. And I'm actually planning on covering more Creature Commandos comics. So I'll probably end up talking later on about where those characters actually come from. But anyways, so here we just kind of stand-ins. I'll go through the art kind of as I'm going, and you'll kind of get like a glimpse of it. But basically, the premise behind this book is the U.S. government in the World War II. They make a group of monsters who are, of course, the Creature Commandos, but they're not like actually those monsters, and it's maybe a little inconsistent as we go along sometimes with the rules with them. But they go, okay, who are, the big things that people are afraid of right now? Well, it's the universal monsters, right? Oh, excuse me. So, what if we take that and we find a way to make them scientifically? So, they take a sergeant who is right here. That's Vincent Velcro, and he killed his commanding officer. I think, like he disobeyed him and then killed him, and they turn him into a vampire. But he doesn't have any of the weaknesses. He can turn into a bat and he craves blood. But that's about it. And oddly enough, and again, I'll get to this a little bit later, but there's a certain point where like he goes from being just a regular bat, as you can kind of see here, to like a human-sized like man bat. It's very strange. Uh, Next, we have Lucky Taylor, who is, of course, like a Frankenstein monster stand-in. He is a guy that I think he was killed by a landmine, so he like exploded outwards, and they rebuilt him. And it's interesting because obviously, you go, okay, well, you have a vampire, you have a werewolf, you have a gorgon, a robot. Um, when I was kind of thinking about it, I was like, oh, I don't really know what the generic term for like the Frankenstein monster would be, and what we go with here is patchwork monster, and I just thought that was kind of interesting because I've never really thought about it that way. But anyways, then you have Griffith, who is a werewolf, and the big thing with him is that he can't control his transformation. Like he'll be a werewolf 1 second and then turn into a human, and then vice versa. And a lot of the times it will come in like really inopportune moments where he's like, ah, shit, I didn't mean to become a human or a werewolf in this moment, but now I am one, you know? And then, so these are who we deal with under JMD Mateus. And then after he leaves, we immediately get Dr. Medusa, who is a Gorgon, who is a Gorgon in appearance, and her hair, of course, are snakes, but they seem to be like completely independent from her. I'm not really sure, honestly, if she can actually control the snakes or not, but she doesn't have like the vision or anything. It's also really funny. She becomes a Gorgon because she breathes in like poisonous gas. I don't really know how that works. And then I think two or three times we get a GI robot in here, and he's a big standout. So I'm actually really happy that Gunn is using him for the TV show. But anyways, let's get straight into this. Oh, and he's not on this cover, but they're also led by this guy, who is Lieutenant Shreve, and he's kind of like your Rick Flag type human character. And I actually think this book is really interesting compared to the Suicide Squad, and I think it makes a lot of sense that we kind of combine those ideas for the TV show because there's a lot of parallels. But one of the things I think is interesting is that you have Rick Flag, who in the Suicide Squad comics is kind of like the good guy of the team, where he's this kind of altruistic guy that's stuck with these villains. And I thought the second movie did a really good job of conveying that. But this guy, Lieutenant Shreve, I feel like he gets worse and worse as the book goes along, where he's just a giant asshole. There's a part later on where he walks in and it's Griffith and Velcro are just sitting around like in their room just hanging out, and there's like a pinup model girl on the wall, and he walks in and he's like, "Don't you forget it, freaks, you guys are gonna die alone." And it's like, oh, what an asshole. Like they're just relaxing and hanging out. But anyways, so we'll get straight into this. So of course this book, the Creature Commandos were a part of Weird War Tales, and they kind of bounce in and out. And if you don't know what that is, that's just one of those like classic comic book anthology books. And of course, GI Robot's another part of it, but he like comes in and out of this. I hope they release a trade of just his books. But anyways, so you have kind of their origin here. But actually, I think I'm going to skip forward a little bit so we can kind of get into some of the meat of this, and we can talk about some of the more interesting stories. Because this first one's literally just here they are, and they fight Nazis. So, like I said, I think the first few issues are just okay. Or maybe that's a little harsh. I think they're fun, kind of pulpy stories. What's cool about the second issue is that they have to go in to get the scientist and bring her out. She's in like enemy territory, and it ends up being a complete setup. And she's basically just there to get them killed. And at the very last second, she's like, "Hey, wait a minute! I don't want you guys to die." And she runs out and just gets obliterated. And you have a very like James Bond Casino Royale, the bitch is dead moment, where Lieutenant Shreve's like, "Oh, she's dead. Yep, and I don't care about her. That's for sure. Don't look at me. I'm not tearing up." And but they also just like leave her lying dead in the on the ground. It's very cold, which is one of the things that they come back to a lot in this book, is that Lieutenant Shreve is like the cold one, while the monsters have more heart than he does, and isn't he the real monster, type of thing. And I feel like JMD Mateus does a way better job at that than Kanigher does later on. But again, we'll get to that when we have the switch. So then we have, have just straight up pulpy fun, which is they go to Dinosaur Island. And the whole plot of this is there's an island where the enemies are, going around, and they have a fleet just off of it, and we got to take them out. But we keep sending spies to this island, and they keep dying, so we send the Creature Commandos there. Oh, excuse me, I'm just going to take a drink here quickly. Sorry about that. So anyways, so they go on this island and they get attacked by dinosaurs, and it's very silly, but it's very amusing. And we get them fighting dinosaurs for a little bit, and then later on they ride a pterodactyl over to the fleet, and they get dinosaurs to attack them, and it's just wild. It's just insane. Uh, it's just like pure kind of pulpy fun, and the kind of message at the end of this one, because a lot of them have your kind of big like moral by the end is that Lieutenant Shreve has pictures of them and he's like, "Oh man, like isn't it amazing? We're gonna be able to come to this island and we're gonna turn these dinosaurs into weapons and use them in the war effort." And the Creature Commandos are like, "No, this island needs to remain a secret because we volunteered for this, as monsters, but these dinosaurs are just animals. Like you can't do to them what you've done to us because." Even us, like, we don't really appreciate that. But so, anyways, so next we're gonna get into an issue that I think is like kind of profound. It's completely insane, and it's like exactly why I love comic books. So, as you can see here by the cover, we have the Creature Commandos tied up on a post, and then you have Hitler up here. So, the plot of this issue is that Hitler, who's not actually Hitler, I think he's a robot. Like I said, it's been a few weeks that I've read this over, so this is some of the earlier stuff that I read. But he comes to a town and he takes over. He takes all the kids and he hypnotizes them and then gets them to kill all their parents. And he also gives them super strength. So he's like, "Oh, these kids, soldiers, they're gonna, cause all this devastation for us." And they worship Hitler. It's this, amazing thing. It's going to be huge for them in the war effort. So the Creature Commandos, their job is to come in here, and the U.S. government's like straight up just kill these children. Like that's just kill them. They're done. There's no kind of turning back for them. So that's what we got to do. And as you can see here, like we straight up, you have Lieutenant Shreve shoot a child, and it's like insane. I couldn't believe this book that's so silly. In the last issue we had them riding dinosaurs and fighting like a Japanese fleet, and now we have them fighting child soldiers. Uh, but yeah, so we have a thing where we kind of go back to the innocence of children, where they're scared of uh, some of the monsters here, and it just like gets more and more wild where they have this reaction where this kid, he's afraid of them, so he goes back to one of the Nazis, and he gets shot and killed by them. So then the other child soldiers start fighting back against them, but then the chemical within them that gave them super strength, it like fucks up their bodies and they end up like imploding, and it's just like complete madness. Um, and it like really shocked me that this was an ending that I think kind of left with me for like a few days, where I was thinking about it, just doing my like daily routine, going to work, going to school and whatnot, and being like, oh my god, like I can't believe JMD DeMatteis like really went there. It's pretty wild. So then we'll get into the next one. Oh yeah, and there's a couple times you have this kind of parody book that's mixed in, which is god damn it, Amazon, the Monster Marines, which is just kind of like a silly little comic strip type thing. So then next we have, I'm trying to remember which issue this is. Da-da-da-da-da-da. So I'm probably not going to go kind of issue by issue. I'm probably going to skip around to the ones that I'm more interested in. Oh, okay. No, so this is the issue. I was thinking it was. Okay. So this one is another really interesting one where you have. This is a town that I think it's called Paradise, and they're kind of off by themselves in the middle of the states. And they're like, okay, we reject America. We don't want to be, part of their ideology. We worship the Nazis. As you can see, they go here and they're in this little church where they worship that. But the whole thing with them is that they're not really like affecting anyone. Like they're not a part of the war effort. They're not really actually dealing with anything, with the war exactly. But America's like, hey, they can't do that. Oh, sorry, it's actually called Freedom, not Paradise. I don't know why I thought that. Anyways, again, it's been a few weeks. So Freedom, New York, which is like pretty on the nose, but whatever. It's like I said, a very pulpy book. But anyways, so they go to Freedom, New York, and the thing that they want to do is make it look like God is, rejecting them for being Nazis. So Lieutenant Shreve has them kill all their animals, as you can see here, and it's not just uh, like the cattle or whatever. Like it's all the farm animals, all the pets, like just all of the animals. They slaughter them to make it look like it was a act of God, like he's kind of coming down on them for this. And then obviously they scare them as the actual monsters that they are. And it just kind of continues in that way. And they end up burning down this town. And you're kind of left with this moment where it's like, you know, they obviously believe in a very horrible ideology, but at the same time, it's like they weren't really doing anything, and they kind of leave you with this moment of, are we the bad guys here? Are they the bad guys? Who exactly is in the wrong here? And like I said, I feel like JMD Mateus is really just coming out and being like, okay, these are the ideas I really want to hit home with this book. Dealing with some of this war stuff. And then here you have another marine monster, or monster marines. Yeah, so then this is the final issue that JMD Mateus does, and it's really interesting. You'll kind of see what I mean in a second here. But so this is our first like big kind of flashback issue. We do this a few times in the book, but we open with Lucky has tried to kill himself, and we're not really sure why that is, but that's a very provocative opening of your Frankenstein monster trying to kill, tried to kill himself. But anyways, so we move forward, and this is where we deal with. I think is this. Yes, so this is where we go to the concentration camp, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, you have them right here. So the creatures they actually go into the camps themselves, and they're being worked, they're being tortured, all this stuff. It's like pretty awful. And oh my god, excuse me, sorry. It's very hot in this room. I have the heat up because it's winter, and it's cold as hell. So, anyways, so Lucky kind of bonds with this woman, this doctor, and they have like a moment where they get very close, and she's like, I hate that this is where we are or whatnot. Like, I don't want to be here. Like, whatever. And you keep going, and you find out that the reason that they're actually in here is that they don't want her research to get out there, and they actually want him to kill her. And it ends up being, or just they want them to kill her, but it ends up being Lucky that kills her. So that really hits him because he is, like I said, kind of bonded to her as the story goes along, and it's pretty sad. And what they end up doing, because Lucky can't talk, he's just entirely mute. And then after they do this, when they're repairing him, they end up giving him vocal cords. And where we're left off with this is just him screaming in the hospital, as you can see here. And it's a pretty horrifying moment where like he finally gets to vocalize himself, and it's just entirely pain. And it's this really big moment. I think earlier on in this issue too, Griffith finally gains control of his werewolf abilities, and this is kind of the arc that JMD Mateus has taken these characters on. As you have Velcro, who is a very, I don't want to say snobby, but like he's like the asshole of the team, where he's like, I just want to drink blood, like fuck all of you guys. I don't want to be a part of this. And as they're seeing more and more crazy things, you kind of get this sense of morality out of him, where he's not really uh, okay with some of the stuff that they're doing. He's the most vocal when it comes to the kind of messages at the end, where a lot of these issues will end with Lieutenant Shreve being like, "Yep, we did the job. That's what we got to do," and Velcro being like, but like is it really okay that we destroyed this town or that we, helped kill these children or whatever it is? And that's kind of his story going throughout the DeMatteis issues. And then with Griffith, by this one, he learns to control his powers, and that's kind of where we leave him off. And Lucky, obviously, as I said, gets a voice. And this is kind of JMD DeMatteis' big kind of end of this, where this is how he's going to leave them off. And I thought that was really cool. But then we get Kanigher who comes in, who ignores all of that and brings it straight back to basically the first issue. And he boils all of the characters back down to where they start. Maybe Velcro's maybe not as much of an asshole, maybe, because it's kind of more put on Shreve, because his Shreve is a lot more of the jerk. And then moving forward, you basically have a formula where the Creature Commandos are hanging out. They go on a mission. Lieutenant Shreve, at every opportunity, will tell them that they are freaks and nobody likes them, nobody loves them. And as you can see here, we have Griffith transforming, and he doesn't really mean to. So we've. Oh, again, sorry. So he's already kind of reset that. And of course, you have here Lucky is unable to speak again. Just all of the characters are completely regressed from where they were at the end of the DeMatteis run, which is unfortunate. And I feel like I kind of had the thing I had, with the DeMatteis run to a degree, um, to a much lesser degree though, because like I said with that, I still liked the first three issues. It was just it took a little bit for him to kind of find his groove of where exactly he wants this book to be. I think, and it takes a little bit for him to like really hit home how amazing these stories are. And I don't know if I would say these are bad. I think because I read them in the same night. This, that last issue and this one, and I had this moment of like, okay, that's like I don't know. I don't really like that. I don't like that we completely regressed all the characters and took it back this way. And as I went along, I went okay, but these issues aren't bad. I feel like part of it is I'm seeing more of somebody telling stories they really want to tell, and then it kind of flips and it becomes okay, here's Silver Age comics, which I don't mean in like an insulting way, but it's like okay, now it's just here's like the pulpy fun part, and we kind of boil out any of the bigger stuff that DeMatteis brought to the book. But that being said, some of this gets completely crazy. So this is like a two-parter. So we're introduced. Oh no, I think this is just Shreve gets injured, and so they have to bring him to a doctor. And as I said, so you have here, this is our new doctor character, and she gets hit with this gas that the monsters just run into, and for whatever reason, this is just chemicals that are sitting around in this hospital. They knock them over. She breathes them in, and it turns her into a gorgon, which doesn't make any sense. It doesn't affect anyone else here, but it's just okay. That's what it's going to do. That's such just Silver Age comic stuff. Like you, I mean, this is the guy who made the Flash. The Flash is one of the sillier origins. Uh, it's just so weird, and because she has snakes for hair, and now she can fight people. It's beautiful stuff. So okay, here is our first issue with GI Robot, which is one of the more insane plots in this book. It's completely wild. So we meet GI Robot, and I'm just gonna straight up say like a lot of the better character stuff moving forward is with GI Robot, especially in this issue, where he has this other Marine character, and it's not deep or anything, but you have this other Marine that he hangs out with. It's like, you darn robots, I don't like you. I like human Marines. They're way better than robots. and GI Robot saves his life, and then he goes, "Okay, I love you, GI Robot. I'm gonna sacrifice myself for you." But he, of course, doesn't die, and he becomes kind of the best friend of GI Robot. And I assume he's probably a big part of GI Robot's like main comics on his own, but I don't know. But anyways, so we ended up getting a story that kind of brings all of them together. Oh, and this is like the type of stuff I was saying with Shreve. Let me see if I can see like the actual part. So maybe it's up here. Anyways, he's like, we're gonna show you to these kids, and they're gonna be so scared of you freaks. We hate you guys so much. You guys are such disgusting creatures. And one of the kind of consistent things with Kanigher's take is that kids really love the monsters because they can. I think what he says exactly is like kids don't see what they look like; they see on the inside. They're not affected by the cruelties of the world, so they just see them for who they are. But anyways, so they go along for this adventure, and we get the dinosaurs again, and they sink them, and then we get the most insane plot where they go. Oh, and by the way, for no reason, every now and then we keep cutting to Satan, who was playing cards. He's playing solitaire with these characters, and it has nothing to do with anything. We just keep cutting to it. I imagine because this book, I know originally had Death as like the Crypt Keeper, so maybe it's like them trying to do something like that again. I don't know. But anyways, I feel like I've said that 8,000 times in this review. Can you tell I'm not good yet at doing this on my own? Anyways, so they go to the underwater city of Atlantis, but it is not Atlantis like you would think about, like say Aquaman or anything like that. It is instead Atlantis 2, and it's straight up called Atlantis 2. You see, you had an original Atlantis that was, a part of ancient civilization, and it was sunk by the Greeks, I think. But they knew it was coming, so they moved from where they were in Atlantis to Atlantis 2. And Atlantis 1 was sunk by the Greeks, and then I think Atlantis 2 was like hit by a storm, and then it sank. And all the Atlantis 2 people are way smarter, and they turn themselves into robots. So they're like, oh, Creature Commandos, we have GI Robot, and he's a fellow robot, so he's going to betray you. And they're like, GI Robot, we want you to take the Creature Commandos into our little ship, fly up, and then bomb their fleet that they're with. And then, we got the humans, they'll never come back. And instead, what he does is he pops them out and then sacrifices himself to destroy Atlantis. And it's pretty crazy. It's pretty. It was a pretty good moment where I was like, oh, I'm actually kind of sad that GI Robot's dead. He's not like an especially deep character. He actually can't speak in this, but uh, I still really felt for him. I really liked this character that just wants to do the right thing, as a soldier, and he has like a this connection to that Marine from earlier, where the only reason he was in the ocean was because they shipped that guy out on a boat, and he just wanted to follow that guy along because he'd grown a human attachment to him, and it's very is he maybe a little bit human to him because he can feel things, and we didn't really think that he could. But anyways, uh, yeah, I don't really have a ton more to say. You have, this is a very silly story where they shrink and they go on a little adventure, literally a little adventure. And then this one, oh, by the way, this is a great page where you have they're talking about the Holocaust, and you see, Hitler and kind of his top people, and the border of the page is supposed to, oh my god, Amazon, I gotta stop doing that with the goddamn mouse. The border, as you can see, is supposed to be the skulls of the people who died in the Holocaust. Like, it's very haunting imagery. And then we immediately get, here's the Creature Commandos in a circus. And this story is a pretty fun one. They make like their own little circus, and they go from concentration camp to concentration camp because there's a doctor that they want to find to bring him out because he's going to help with the nuclear bomb testing, and we really need to, make sure that we get him before the Nazis either kill him or end up figuring out who he is. So like at all costs, we got to get to him. So they kind of go around from camp to camp as like a circus until they find the one that he's in. And it honestly reminded me a little bit of like Inglorious Bastards, where it was like you have the kind of entertainment aspect merged with this kind of fun adventuring group that's killing Nazis. And yeah, I thought that was a really cool one. So then we get GI Robot back. This is the second one. As you may have noticed in the last one, he had a 1 on his hat, but now he has a 2 because he's the second one. And yeah, we get like another little adventure with him. So he gets injured here, and this is where this issue goes completely insane. So GI Robot gets injured, so he gets time away. By the way, I love this page. I love that this is the same guy that was friends with the first one. He gives mouth to mouth to the robot, and then this other Marine's like, dude, come on, man. Robots don't breathe. Why are you giving them mouth to mouth? So they're nice enough. They let GI Robot go, and he meets a British princess, and she falls in love with him, and she's blind. So it's kind of like The Thing and Alicia Masters, where it's that type of thing, if you will. And it it's kind of funny because he doesn't say anything. So she's just like, oh, Jake, you're such, because that's his name in this is Jake. They're like, oh, Jake, you're such a nice, strong man. You don't have much to say, but I feel so, comforted in your arms. And then the Creature Commandos pop in. They're like, hey, dude, what's up? You're hanging out with this princess. That's cool. This is technically our story. We got to show up at some point. So the Nazis, they decide they're like, okay, we need a big target to kind of capture and hold for ransom, or hold for just, I think, political power. I think they want someone that the Allies have. So they're like, hey, if we get this princess, maybe then, we'll have some bargaining. So then it becomes, we got to protect the princess from the Nazis. And this is a big one that I'm wondering if it was an inspiration for the show. Obviously, it's not a British princess in that, but we know that you have the woman who played Cosmo, Maria Bakalova, I think her name is. She's playing a Eastern European princess, and her and Rick Flag Sr. Hook up. So I'm wondering if that was maybe part of the inspiration. But now I hope she gets with GI Robot now. Forget Rick Flag. Yeah, and then this story was just kind of. I feel like this is around when it starts to drop off. Personally, I feel like by this point, part of it is the story. I was just kind of like, I don't know. I feel like we're running out of steam here, which is funny because you have this fire character, but also there's a lot of just repeating things where it's a lot of like, okay, the Creature Commandos go to a place, they get attacked by a group, they fight them off. They're flying in a plane, they get attacked by an enemy plane, and Velcro turns into a bat and takes out the plane. Kanigher does a lot of repeating scenes, and I'm sure the idea is, it's a Silver Age comic. Like this could be a kid's first comic. They're not necessarily buying every issue, but I do feel like it becomes a little repetitive. So yeah, we have this is just like an ancient Greek story where Hades' daughter wants to find love, but she can't because she's made of fire. She's the goddess of fire. And Medusa, because Medusa kind of takes Velcro's place at this point of being the one that's like, okay, here's the lesson. And she kind of walks away like, yeah, I also feel like, I'm never going to be with anyone like you, ancient Greek goddess. But I don't know. We waste so much time this is one of the issues that has the bat one, and this is I think the exact issue where he becomes the giant bat now, where he's like a man bat sized, and this is exactly what I mean. Like I feel like this whole story with the Greek goddess is really underdeveloped because we're doing just kind of stock things we do every issue with them. So it's like you have what one, two, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 if you want to count this one. We have 9 issues of the 9 issues. Fuck, 9 pages of the story that are kind of wasted when they're not really further developing the story. Like you could get them to her a little bit faster and then delve a little deeper because it ultimately, you have essentially 2 pages here and then what 3, arguably 4 pages here, and that's like really arguably. Really, it starts here. 2 pages at the start, 3 pages at the end, and like that's the story. And you've like 9 pages in the middle that are nothing. But anyways, I feel like that just kind of becomes an issue as we go along. So next we have this is an issue where they get separated from Lieutenant Shreve. He gets to retire, and he gets to see what life's like not connected to these monsters. Because at this point, as I kind of said, his entire character is just he hates the Creature Commandos. He doesn't want to be around them. He antagonizes them like any chance that he gets for no real reason. Like, he's just an asshole to them. And then once he's separated, he goes, okay, well, now I have nothing left. Like, I kind of needed them. And then the Creature Commandos, they want to go to Greece, I think, to do this wish that might turn them back human. And that's kind of it. They find some Nazis there. They fight them. They get back together. And there you go. So this issue is really funny because, as you can see, we got of course, we have the Creature Commandos. We have GI Robot here again, and then here he is again. And I went, oh yay! I really like when we bring in GI Robot. He's been a big standout here. And then he's only in this panel. He's not in the rest of the story. He has nothing to do with it. He's just also getting a medal with them. And yeah, this is a story about them getting medals. Basically, they're hanging out with some children, and the children get captured by the Nazis. And then we get genuinely a pretty fun train sequence where they're on a train. It was very Indiana Jones, which I really liked, where we go on this train to get the kids back. And there's nothing really to the story, but I just thought it was fun. So next we have, honestly, the biggest disappointment in this book. So, as I kind of said with that Greek one, where it's like, here's, all this wasted space, we're not actually developing the story that we're telling. That is this issue in a nutshell. And it's really unfortunate because I think this may be the best story idea, or one of the best story ideas in this book. So what you have here is the Creature Commandos. They're sad. They don't fit in with the world. Then we go off. We fight some Nazis. And then we meet this new character who they were sent after that has a time machine. And she says, where do you want to go? I have this time machine. I'll let you go anywhere in it. And they say, we want to go 1,000 years in the future because we don't fit in this world. We want to go to the future where maybe they can fix us and turn us human again. We don't want to be monsters. So they go there. And then they get to the future, and everyone is exactly the same. Every guy is this man, and every woman is this woman. And as you can see, they're all like the Aryan race. And what we learn is that the Earth ended in nuclear holocaust, and all the humans got together and they said, okay, how do we come back from this? And the plan that they come up with is they go, okay, let's take 2 people and let's clone them a whole bunch and then reproduce over time, and eventually everyone will be weeded out of our evolutionary path, and it will just be everyone is this person. It's this guy, this girl. Which is also really weird because I think they're brother and sister, but anyways. Uh, so we end up coming to a place of the kind of, master race, and it's never really discussed. I thought there would at least be like a little wrap up moment where they go, "Oh man, this is why this is bad," but it's not really. And they even try to kill the creature commandos because they're like, everyone's got to be, these people. We can't have anyone else. No freaks allowed. But we don't really talk about it, and it's really unfortunate because that's such a great idea where it's like you have the commandos in the war fighting against this ideology, and in the end they go to a future where that ideology kind of won. And I just think that's really fascinating. And again, we don't really do anything with it. It's so let's see. You maybe have probably starts here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. This isn't really delving into it. So 3. You have these 3 pages going into that, and the rest is them fighting lions and stuff and getting away. And everything before that is just them fighting Nazis and doing the same thing that they do every issue. And some of that stuff, some of this is really cool, like them walking down the street with the bodies hanging. But it's also taking away from the cool idea that they're delving into in the story. So it's like I feel like some of this stuff maybe could have been split off into its own issue. Not necessarily like a two-parter, but just its own story. And you can fit that in anywhere. So, anyways, this is the final final issue. So I have a ton to say about how this book ends, but this is the final story. It opens the same kind of way. People hate the creature commandos; they don't fit in this world. Um, and then Hitler decides, okay, we need something that can fight the creature commandos. Uh, the Japanese made a robot that fought GI robot, so he pops in right here. And they're like, what can we do with the creature commandos? So they create the fembots from Austin Powers, and they're like, these fembots will seduce them and then kill them, which they attempt to do, but Dr. Medusa blows them up with a grenade, and then they're done. And that is the final issue for them. But they then return for a one-issue story in another issue of Weird War Tales. That's 1 page. It's just this page, and it is the most like Poochie from the Simpsons ending of just I have to go now. My planet needs me. There's no context to this in the book. Like I'm just reading it, and it's like okay, this issue we have the little end here. Then we get to this next one. It's like oh, we're dropped right in this. So the creature commandos have been court-martialed and they're about to be killed by a death squad by the U.S. Marines. And then another Marine says, wait a minute, we have one last mission for them to do first. So let's put them in a rocket. So they put them in a rocket, including G.I. Robot. And then we launch them into space. And then they go, oh no, the rocket's off course. Well, I guess they went somewhere else in space. Who knows? Bye. And it's like I was dumbfounded. So first of all, let me go back a little bit. So first of all, I thought it was hilarious that the final issue that they had, because I came into this one knowing this was the end, just by how much I had left in the book. Um, I thought it was hilarious that we ended with just here are the fembots from Austin Powers. Like what a from the heights that this book had, like it's crazy that this is where we ended up leaving it off. Especially because I thought J.M. DeMatteis had quite a good ending. I thought that was one of the better issues of the series. And then you just have this, which like it's just funny more than anything. Like I've been thinking about this all day since I read this last night, and it was just I had no idea what to do with that. Or it's like, oh okay, bye. It was like such a fuck you ending. And I do think it's unfortunate because I looked into it a little bit, and it's about what I figured, which is that Weird War Tales got canceled. So this is them going like, "Oh yeah, the book is canceled. Maybe these characters might come back someday, though. Who knows?" But I do think it's a little unfortunate that they weren't like, "Oh, this book is ending. Ah, let's do like a little wrap up story." DeMatteis was able to do that. Let's do that for our run. But no, that didn't happen. I don't know if there's more to this. They're just not in it, but this is all you get in this trade. I imagine this is just like a one issue or one page thing. And then yeah, that's the end of the book. So just to kind of talk over it, I feel like I maybe came off a little harsh, but I really liked this book quite a bit. Even on the issues that I thought were not great, and as it started to get a little stale by the last like two or three issues, and maybe just the last two, uh, like I was still mostly having fun while reading this, even in the stories that weren't great. Uh, I feel like I maybe am a little harsher by the end because it got a little stale. So then I'm like, okay, here are these things that got a little annoying and like a little, formulaic. But then they're also in some of the issues prior, so it's like, oh, well, it also happened in that issue. Uh, but like I wasn't thinking about it in the moment. In the moment, I was just having fun with this kind of quirky war book. And the big thing I think is just it's really cool that this got to find another life. It got to come back in some way. And I know it gets another 8 issue series in 2000, and I'm probably going to start reading that this weekend. And if people are interested, I'll review those as well. But yeah, so that's Creature Commandos. Basically, you have JMD Mateus comes in with an idea, and it's a pretty cool one. And I think he handles his this series a lot better than Kanigher does. Oh, it's it's maybe a little rough looking at like the actual page count while I'm going through this because it's like, oh, JMD Mateus is not as much of this book as I would have thought. But like I said, Kanayer's issues aren't bad. They just sorry about the buffering. I'll just leave it at this because I'm just kind of wrapping up anyways. I feel like while not bad, his issues just kind of feel like very much of the time that they came out in. Maybe because this book ends at 83, so it's like right on that edge where it's like, we're starting to kind of move away from this kind of stuff. But like at the same time, like these comics are still fun. They're still enjoyable, and yeah, that's about what I have with this. Really, I wanted to do this because I read this and I felt like I had quite a bit to say about the different stories and whatnot, and I just assumed I would never get a chance to do this on Geekvolution, so I was like, I've been meaning to do some more videos on my channel. Maybe I'll just kind of tackle this. And then oddly enough, I feel like I kind of just went through and summarized every issue to you. So I guess I'm sorry about that. But like, I hope you got something out of this. I hope, if you're watching this, you looked at this and you went, oh, this is maybe a book that I'm interested in or would like to read. Check out for myself or whatever. Or maybe, this is just an idea I want to see more of. Like maybe I want to watch the show or read, one of the other comics that we've done. My big thing, honestly, is I want a video game of this. Like I feel like there's like a cool Wolfenstein type game that you could make out of this series. And yeah, that's about what I have. So let me know in the comments. Like, have you guys read this stuff? If you have, what do you think about it? I really want to do more videos on my channel. So if there's things that you just would like to see me talk about, also drop that in the comments. Like, I'll definitely look at that and take requests like that. Maybe not like requests as in like, oh hey, do this. Okay, but like, that's something I'm interested in. I'll try to do that for you. Yeah. So I don't let end videos on my own. Bye.
I have to go now. My planet needs me. Wow, Poochie came from another planet?
I guess.
Hey, that wasn't supposed to happen. Those Sphinx double-crossed me.